You won't believe what just happened in this courtroom. A once-feared judge, known for his arrogance and authority, publicly humiliated a sharp and determined attorney. But just moments later, the tables turned so drastically that he found himself in handcuffs. What led to this shocking downfall will leave you speechless. Before we dive into the details, let us know where you're watching from in the comments, and if you enjoy powerful real-life stories like this, be sure to subscribe, because tomorrow we have another incredible case you won't want to miss. Jasmine Crockett was no stranger to high-stakes legal battles. Before stepping into politics as a congresswoman, she spent years in the courtroom as a fierce criminal defense attorney, standing up for those without a voice. But today, she was about to face one of the most outrageous challenges of her career. The courtroom she entered that morning belonged to Judge Howard Gates, a man notorious for his sharp tongue, unpredictable rulings, and clear bias. This wasn't just another case, it was explosive, a corruption scandal involving a wealthy real estate mogul with deep political connections. The allegations were staggering, millions in state funds funneled into private ventures. As the appointed special prosecutor, Jasmine was there to expose the truth. From the moment she stepped inside, the tension was undeniable. Judge Gates barely glanced at her as she approached the prosecution table. Instead, he slowly flipped through the case file, letting the silence linger, thick and heavy. When he finally spoke, his words dripped with condescension. "Miss Crockett, I assume you have something worthwhile today, or are we just wasting the court's time with theatrics?" A few quiet chuckles rippled from the defense table, but Jasmine remained unshaken. "Your Honor, the evidence speaks for itself. This case is about the misuse of taxpayer money, and my duty is to present the facts." Judge Gates leaned back, feigning boredom. "Taxpayer money? Oh yes, because that's never been the basis for baseless accusations before, right?" Jasmine's jaw tightened, but her voice remained steady. "With all due respect, Your Honor, corruption and fraud are not baseless claims." Their eyes locked. His gaze was cold and calculated, hers unwavering and firm. But before she could continue, he cut her off again. "Miss Crockett, spare me the lectures. Get to the point. I don't have time for your progressive fantasies." A ripple of murmurs spread through the gallery. This wasn't just a judge being tough, it felt personal. Jasmine remained composed. She reached for a folder and opened it. "Your Honor, I direct the court's attention to Exhibit A. These financial records clearly show—" "Do you always bury people in paperwork, Miss Crockett?" he snapped. "Or is this your way of compensating for weak arguments?" The room tensed. The defense attorney smirked, but Jasmine didn't flinch. Instead, she calmly placed the folder down and clasped her hands. "Your Honor," she said, her voice even, "if this is personal, I'm happy to request a recess to address any professional concerns you may have." It was a subtle pushback, polite but firm. A silent message. "I won't be intimidated." Judge Gates smirked. "Oh, I have no concerns, Miss Crockett. I just see a weak case in front of me." The gallery reacted instantly. Gasps, whispers, raised eyebrows. Judges were supposed to be impartial, but this was blatant. Still, Jasmine refused to raise her voice. Instead, she moved forward. "Then I suppose we should let the evidence do the talking." She presented the next document, financial discrepancies that directly implicated the defendant. But Gates interrupted again. "I hate to interrupt your presentation, truly I do," he said sarcastically, "but I think we've seen enough numbers for one day." "Your Honor," she replied, "these numbers form the foundation of the case." He scoffed, "And yet I see nothing that justifies wasting this court's time." It was clear he wasn't just dismissing her, he was trying to kill the case before it even began. Jasmine reached for another document. "Your Honor, I would like to submit a motion." "Denied." He cut her off. She looked up, stunned. "I haven't even stated the motion." And yet, he had already made up his mind. The air in the courtroom was suffocating. The tension wasn't just felt, it crackled like static before a storm. People weren't merely watching. They were gripping their seats, sensing that something was deeply wrong. and Jasmine knew it. Judge Howard Gates wasn't just being difficult, he was shielding something. What he didn't realize was that so was she. "Very well," she said smoothly. She brought up a document on the screen, a contract between the developer and city planning, a standard piece of evidence. But then the trap was set. She pulled up another file, an internal ledger, showing the developer had received nearly double the approved funds. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Then the final strike. A third document appeared, a signature. Judge Howard Gates. Gasps filled the room. Jasmine turned to the judge, her voice measured. "Your Honor, would you like to explain why your signature is on an unauthorized financial transaction involving the defendant?" For the first time, Gates hesitated. His expression was unreadable. "That document is inadmissible," he muttered. "On what grounds?" Jasmine countered. "It was obtained improperly." She tilted her head. "Your Honor, my office subpoenaed it." "It was mishandled," he snapped. "It won't be considered." But it was too late. The jury had seen it. The reporters had seen it. The entire courtroom had seen it. Jasmine wasn't done. "This is a public hearing," she reminded everyone. "The media is here. Everyone just watched you dismiss key evidence without cause." "Enough, Miss Crockett," Gates growled. But she wasn't finished. Calmly, she reached into her briefcase, pulled out a recorder, and pressed play. A voice, sharp and unmistakable, filled the room. "Take care of it. I don't care how. Make sure she never gets her hands on those ledgers." Silence, absolute, crushing. Everyone recognized the voice. Jasmine let the recording finish. Then, her voice barely above a whisper, she asked, "The real question is, Your Honor, who were you talking to?" Gates exploded. "This is outrageous." But it was too late. Jasmine slid another document across the table, an official transcript of a wiretap, word for word identical to the recording. She turned to Officer Reynolds. "Would you please read the highlighted section?" The officer cleared his throat. "We'll take care of her, if Crockett doesn't have anything solid yet, but if she does, I'll make sure it never sees a courtroom." The room erupted. Gates banged his gavel, trying to regain control. "This hearing is over." Jasmine didn't flinch. "I wasn't asking for permission." A single nod from her, and the doors opened. Footsteps echoed. "Judge Howard Gates, you are under arrest." Gasps. Camera shutters clicked. Two officers approached the bench. The metal of the handcuffs gleamed as they snapped shut around his wrists. Gates tried to protest, but the weight of his words had long since crumbled. "You have the right to remain silent," an officer recited. For the first time in his life, Judge Gates actually was. Jasmine remained seated, her expression unreadable. This wasn't about victory, it was about justice. As Gates was escorted out, the developer, Charles Lawson, began to panic. Wait, we can work something out." Jasmine stood calm as ever. "You seem nervous, Mr. Lawson. Why might that be?" He stammered. You don't actually believe Gates is guilty, do you?" She tilted her head. "Do you?" The energy in the room had shifted. Corruption had been exposed, but the trial wasn't over. Jasmine turned toward the now empty judge's bench. "To whoever takes over this case, I'd like to submit additional evidence. Because if we found this, there's more." Her gaze locked onto Lawson. "So I'll ask again, do you want to talk?" He exhaled, his bravado collapsing. "If I do, I want protection." Jasmine nodded. "Then you'd better start talking." And just like that, the real reckoning began. No one was above the law. Thank you for watching this video. Let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from and which part of the story gripped you the most. We always love hearing from you. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss more stories of justice, perseverance, and the truth. Everyone has a story worth sharing. Let's keep spreading these powerful messages together. See you in the next video. Justice was served today, but this case was about more than just exposing corruption. It was about the power of standing up for the truth. Jasmine didn't let intimidation, power, or even the courtroom itself silence her. She pressed forward, and because of that, the truth came to light. But the real question is, what would you have done? The power of integrity. This story reminds us of an important lesson. Truth and justice only prevail when someone has the courage to fight for them. It's easy to stay silent, to turn a blind eye when things don't seem right. After all, speaking up can come at a cost. But the real danger isn't in challenging corruption, it's in allowing it to thrive. Integrity isn't about knowing what's right, it's about doing what's right, even when it's difficult. Jasmine took a stand, and in the end, the weight of truth was undeniable. What this means for you. Maybe you're not standing in a courtroom, but we all face moments where we must choose between silence and action. Will you speak up when you witness injustice? Will you challenge what doesn't feel right? Or will you let fear decide for you? The world needs more people who aren't afraid to stand for the truth, because when one person takes a stand, it gives others the courage to do the same. Thank you for watching today's story. What did you think of Jasmine's approach? Would you have handled it the same way? Let us know in the comments. We always love hearing your thoughts. And if you found this story compelling, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another gripping story about truth, justice, and the power of standing strong. Let's keep spreading these powerful messages together. Until next time, stay curious, stay courageous, and never stop fighting for what's right. See you in the next video.